everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood. Today, I am here with the fabulous, I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name, Ilona, and
Ilona Rubashevsky.
there we go. Thank you. I appreciate the help with the last name. And where are you calling in from, Ilona? Where are you?
I am in sunny Cali.
Ah, nice. Lovely, lovely. I'm currently in Virginia visiting friends and we'll be heading back to Calgary, Alberta shortly, where it's not nearly as green or inspiring, but oh well. And then I get to visit friends. So glad to have you here. And we're going to be talking about how do you get untriggered? So taming your triggers, 5 keys to upgrading your stress response, which I think is really valuable because all of us have stress, all of us get triggered, and having some practical ways to get untriggered is very helpful. So that's why I'm really happy you're here. But before we launch in, I'm going to tell you the official information and background about Ilona, and then we're going to hear the juicy tidbits behind the scenes before we launch into the topic. So Ilona is a powerhouse of positivity. She is your future self advocate. I love that phrase, by the way. I meant to tell you that. I think that's a great title. Who has helped transform thousands of lives, helping individuals pause their stress and experience respite and build up resilience so that they are able to show up at their stressful environment as their best selves. Results clients have reported were better relationships, more time, confidence, productivity, positivity, and enjoyment in their lives, and decreased aches and pains. Oh, that's nice. Now, who doesn't want that? She believes that empowered parents empower children. Her goal is to help you build resilience and respond versus react and set that example for your children, which is, I think, super, super important because they do what we do. They don't listen to what we say, or at least so I've heard, because I'm not actually a parent, but that's what I've noticed. So tell me a little bit more about you, and what would we not guess about you if we read your website or heard your bio? What would people never guess? Maybe even your friends don't know this.
Oh, even my friends don't know this. That's going to be some juicy stuff.
Yes, that's what we want. We want the juicy stuff.
The juicy stuff. Well, one of the things is that I have done so much explorative work after I got divorced or after I got out of a 12-year divorce, where I am now also teaching intimacy classes. I
Ah,
got into Tantra and all other juicy ways of expanding all that is amazing.
cool. That's very cool. And that's a really interesting kind of segue. And I know you have, just as an aside, you have a program that helps people get divorced in 12 weeks or less, right?
I do. So I have a broad spectrum, and in this whole process that I've got to endure, the whole like life teaches you. Life is the school.
Uh,
Um, I got to enjoy finding out how to untrigger, how to get divorced instead of 12 years in 12 weeks, and how to build better relationships and have that juicy intimacy we all technically crave. So one package, but I have all these
Components.
interests and tools.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us, obviously your own experience got you into the work around faster divorces and then creating more intimacy, but what's your why? Why in the past, or what's your purpose for really wanting to support people in not being triggered, in being more grounded?
Wow. Let me ask you something.
Hmm.
Have you ever been stuck in this negativity cycle and running this Netflix marathon of your worst moments and the most embarrassing scenes over and over and over in your mind and beating yourself up with this imaginary bat?
It has happened, yes.
Yes. And I've been doing that for years, and that resulted in me having chronic migraines since I was 8 years old
Oh.
and losing multiple organs
Mm.
and all of this mental, literally self battery and self abuse, including adding a lot of stress and overwhelm to my life by letting others take advantage of me because I was trying to please everybody and take everything on because I was supposed to, right? Can you relate?
Yep, yep, absolutely.
So, with that said, my body crashed and I had to do something. And after hitting a lot of brick walls and with a pharmacy of medications and being a guinea pig of experiments with doctors and other experts,
Mm-hmm.
I tried something that I had zero belief would actually help.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a mental reset where I had to change my thinking. And that actually helped me get rid of my chronic migraines, healing my endometriosis, my IBS, my SIBO, and other alphabet soup letters that I've acquired since I was a kid. So I was so thrilled that I healed all my ailments, and I've not had them come back for over 8 years.
Huh?
And you absolutely have to spread the word because, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is my why, because I've healed all of these things by just changing my mind.
Mm.
And sisters, we're sisterhood. Come on, we have to stick together, and we have so much stuff piling upon us, and we take care of everything, and we're taking on all the stuff because we're trained to, or we think we can, and we think we have to.
Yes.
So I became a positivity coach and your future self advocate because I needed it for me.
Yes, yes. And I love that phrase. So tell people a little bit more about what that means to you, your future self advocate.
Well, so it's basically, imagine if you had a guardian angel from your future come to you right now and say, hey, this is what your life looks like. Do you want to get on that path faster and sooner and come on it now? Or do you want to just kind of maneuver around this like thing that you're like trying to figure out what it is that you're doing and what it is that you want, and you're kind of like just, you know, playing with a whole lot of things without actually knowing where you want to go,
Right.
right? And so the way to get there is just to kind of like sit still, and like sometimes being in stillness and figuring out, what do I want, going inside your own mind instead of, well, let me get the lunch out, let me get this report done, let me take care of my husband, let me take care of my boyfriend, let me take care of the dogs, let me take care of the house, let me take care of these other projects that I have to do, and the soccer practice and the dance classes and all of this stuff, you know. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't have time to think of what I want because right now I have to do groceries, I have to do this, I have to do this. five
Yeah.
minutes Take 5 minutes to go into your mind, and you're like,
Yes. It's not a hospitable place for many women.
no. So your future self comes in and is like, honey, let me sit down with you and tell you all the juiciness you've got coming up in your future. Now just come and listen. Right? Would you have time for that?
Yeah, I think especially if it sounds that juicy. So tell me, and define what you mean by triggered, because I think most people understand that phrase, but what does it mean, or how do we know when we are triggered? What's the easiest way to know we're triggered?
Good question. Well, triggers are things that are just basically, think of them as Velcro, right? You've got Velcro. On one hand, it's like this little loops. On the other hand, it's little hooks, right? And
Mhm.
so these loops and hooks hook onto each other. And so these, like, I asked you to clean your room and you still haven't done it, right? For some of us, it's like, oh, you want me to do this and this and this, and you haven't cleaned your room yet? Or I said, put the phone down, and it's like your kids don't always listen. So that's a trigger. However, that's not where that started.
Mm.
That started from your, right? That started from a while ago where, you were either trained like this or somebody else told you this is what you need to do.
Mhm.
So it's basically, and the common triggers are, I mean, where people say something in about you and you feel shame or being blamed, even though they're like, I didn't mean it in a shameful way. You
Mhm.
know, it's like the same comment. It's like, oh, for example, um, being called weird. What
Mhm.
is that for you right now?
For me, it's a compliment, but for some people, it would not be. Yes.
For some people, it's like, oh, I'm insulted. How dare you? And
Yes.
how dare you? And other people are like, you're making fun of me, right? So the same word has different triggers for other people. And it's like, but, and for like, if you were to say, oh my God, that is so weird, somebody could take that in a completely different way, right?
Mhm.
And
So
so, yeah, go ahead.
basically, the story that we tell about the word, the phrase, the whatever it is that's going on. And the story we tell creates an emotional response, right? That serves us or doesn't serve us. So
Exactly.
how do we, because I know you've got a methodology around this, how do we figure out how, once we're triggered, how to not get triggered? What's the process around that or process?
I will get into the process. Can I back up a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the triggers are basically these memories where we tend to stack on events and we build this solid foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And then each time, like when we're kids, we're like, for example, afraid of the dark, right? Oh my God, it's scary. Or let me just do something that's more relevant to sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a girl and you need to be helpful around the house,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be a good girl and sit down and listen and be quiet, right? And so each time we're like, oh, I said something and I was yelled at, so that's bad. So I need to sit down and be quiet. And so we stack these events and we keep them as evidence. And then it's like, well, so now I have this solid foundation that I should not speak up. I should not be vibrant. I should not be loud. I should not let my fire glow. I need to kind of dim my light a little, right? How many of us women do have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the stacking eventually erodes relationships, whether it's with a client, whether it's with ourselves, whether it's with a romantic partner or business relationships. Like, oh, here I'm doing all of this, and why am I not being seen, right? In the business world or some other aspects. So eventually, we're just either putting ourselves in a box, but we're also having this other side of us that's just like, but I want to come out. Like, I have this fire and you've been dimming me. And it's like at some point in time, it's time to come out, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, so we've built up this foundation and we get triggered because of the whole, like, I want to come out and I'm trained like this. And why are you disrespecting me? And but it's also like, we're creating that kind of environment, right? Around ourselves. So triggers, how to not get triggered
Yeah.
or how to not respond. So basically, how have you ever like said something and you wished you could have taken it back?
Yes.
Yes. So when we do that, it doesn't feel good, right?
Right.
So the first thing, and it's an acronym, so it's kind of fun and easy for the audience to remember.
Okay.
So the acronym is TWERK with a C at the end. So twerk, like a dance move.
Okay.
So number 1, T, time out. So when you're feeling triggered, let me get a sip of water. My throat is better. Okay.
Good.
So T, you time out. So somebody's triggering you, like getting loud or yelling or saying, I don't like the cooking. And you're like, I don't have time to do all this, right? You're like, whatever it is. So instead of like, just time out, be like,
Okay.
freeze.
Yeah.
So that you don't say something you wish you could have taken back. Because it's not pleasant and you're just reacting instead of responding creates a bigger explosion, right?
Right.
And again, I'm going to repeat that it's usually not that specific event that is actually the root cause. It's something from your past.
Right.
And so taking it out on your kids makes you feel even worse, and then takes that whole bat and it's like, how could I do that? How could I yell at my kids? I hate myself for it. And it's just a perpetual cycle, which we want to stop. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm
so
typing as we talk.
Type what?
I'm typing out what you're saying as we talk.
Okay.
Okay.
So when you do a timeout, just time out, and like it gives you a second to be like, I want to say something, but I'm just like, we put our kids on timeout occasionally and stuff, but just time out. So it's sometimes a good thing. You can just be like, I'm gonna go get the potatoes, or I'm gonna go get some water. I'm gonna like time out myself. And in that time, it's kind of like it gives you a chance to just like. Now, number 2 is the W.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself why. The why. Why you got triggered. Why you got upset. why do I get blank emotions? Why is it that what they said did this to me?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not the little cute face that said, "Mom, I don't like your clumpy potatoes," or
Mm-hmm.
something. It's not that cute face that is getting you upset. It's something else. And so, and asking yourself the why, because now you're kind of calming down, helps you get to the root of it. It won't get to the root immediately because everything is a process. Like, you don't start going to the gym and you're like, oh, I've got this like 6-pack abs. That's just like great. And like these wonderful, like, biceps or anything. You don't have that first day. You have to
Right.
keep doing it. And then the more you do it, the better the outcomes. So, time out, ask yourself why.
Mhm.
Now, E is explore. Explore the origin of that trigger. When was the first time you can recall right now that this happened?
Mm.
After you're like, why did this happen? When is the first time?
Mhm.
And where in your body do you feel it? Like, is it in my chest? Is it in my stomach? Oh, I always have stomach aches. Why is it in my stomach? Why does it keep doing that? You
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And so we're just kind of like, where is it? And where's the origin?
Mhm.
And at some point, there could be trauma that comes up with this. It won't on the first few times, but at some point, you will. So there'll be a long water break kind of time out. You don't have to do it now, but just kind of be mindful when you're doing it in that moment. You'll just kind of, by the time you do these 5 steps, and they don't have to be in depth. It'll be something, it's like a door cracking open, and it's like in a stuffy room. When you crack the door open, some air comes circulating in and you're feeling a little better, right?
Yeah.
So it's cracking a door open and you're kind of starting to notice, and feelings just need to be felt and noticed. That's all that they
Right.
are. So TWER, release.
Mm.
So you want to release it, breathe. So you either have a breath practice, and I'm happy to share one. So just, I like to personally breathe in for 3 or 4, and then breathe out for double the amount of time.
Mm.
So for either 6 or 8,
Mhm.
and do 3 to 5 of those. So breathe in, hold, and breathe out. Hold. And that activates your parasympathetic nervous system and it calms you down.
Mhm.
And or you can also just shake it out, and that's why the whole twerk is part of it. So you can shake it out, because animals, when they have a stress response, they just shake. They shake uncontrollably, or they do that, and that releases it. As humans, we don't really do that kind of thing. We're like, oh, it's not appropriate right now. It's not the time, you know. But like a bouncing party, or whatever, be like, I'm going to turn on music right now, and we're going to just shake it out right now. That's
Right.
fun family activity too. Kids would love it. I know my kid does. So
Yeah, absolutely.
okay. And then number 5, C, is celebrate. You need to reward yourself and make it a positive experience so that you will do it again.
Mm.
So, because these things, they keep, you're stepping on the same rake, keeping the same cycle going, right? And so doing this little hard work of things, and this can take anywhere from like 2 to 5 minutes to hours, depends on how deep you want to go. It just, you can ask, any of these questions can go as in depth as you want or
Mhm.
as short as you want. Just like if you're in the middle of dinner, you don't want to be like delving into your childhood, but you do want to be like, okay, it's not my kid that got me upset. It's not my husband that got me upset. It's just, it's something from work and I don't need to take it out on them. I will assess it, or I will journal about it, or I will take care of it afterwards.
Right.
Right. But
Right.
it's something you're cracking the door open to be like, okay, it's not them. And so you're not going to be wanting to rip their heads off. You're not going to be wanting to like get upset at them.
Right.
Instead you'll come over and just kiss your sweetheart or kiss your baby or whatever that is, that the situation you're in, you'll be like, oh, okay. Or at work with the boss, it's like, do you want me to redo the report again?
Mhm.
It's good. It's like, oh, okay. How can I take this criticism in a positive way? Right. So it's, instead of like being upset and talking to your coworkers and spending half your day being pissed and worried
Yeah.
and chatting about it,
Yes.
You kind of just kind of like, you know, be like, okay, I have to redo the report. You know, I mean, and this goes into more depth, and I do
Yeah.
classes about that as well. It's just, this is like a simple process. You can just kind of be like, okay, it's not, I'm not actually mad at them. Maybe my work was a little sloppy because I didn't have sleep, because I blah, 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 or whatever the reason. So you get to look as to your why and
Mhm.
explore the root of it. And those things, they can go either like this far in, or all the way to your, to your childhood. And so it depends on how much time you have. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right.
So,
That makes lots of sense.
mhm.
So just to recap, twerk, TWERC, to de-trigger is to take a time out, pause, don't react, just pause for a moment, walk away if you need to. W is the why. Why did you get triggered? So to be curious about what was it exactly, and recognizing that it's probably not that, it's something that previously existed. E, explore what was the origin of that trigger. When was the first time it happened? Where do you feel it in your body? So just get curious about how it's, what the experience is overall and where it might have come from and so forth. And then R, release, to breathe or dance or move or shake your body or do some form of release that really moves the energy out of you. And then C, celebrate, to reinforce the positive results and really being at the cause of your experience instead of at the effect of it. So I think that's brilliant. It's a great little system and simple to remember and use. And really a lot of this is about how do we respond, not react, like you said, because when we react, that's often where regrets might live. So how do we respond and be the person we really want to be? So this is a great memory cue. And what happens if people just, it's a really big trigger and they just kind of go, okay, pause, but I don't want to. I really want to react right now. Or I really want to get them back, or I really, like we're really super in it. Anything else that you can kind of advise that would help when that's just not present? That's not there. What can we
Yeah,
do?
you twerk.
Yeah. Okay, I love
You
it.
just dance it out. Like, you're like,
Yeah. So just jump to the movement and let yourself kind of just have a reaction in your body to move that energy. Love it. Okay.
exactly. So 2 in 1. So if all else fails, just twerk.
I love it. All right. So how does this help in terms of just practicality? I mean, I know that it's fairly common sense about why we want to respond versus react, but what are some of the benefits that we might not realize?
Hmm. So the world that we create, like, we get mad at others for things that we're upset with within ourselves.
Hmm.
And people and situations are basically mirrors of our internal environment.
Mm.
And as an example, we attract things and people who are similar to us and
Hmm.
who have the same mannerisms and values, and or are secretly things we wish we had, like
Mm.
shadow selves.
Hmm.
So all of these things that we're kind of like creating and wanting,
Hmm.
they are just, they're basically elements of us.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. Carry on. Finish off that thought.
Um it, I think the thought is done.
Okay, good enough, good enough. I didn't want to interrupt you prematurely. So really, I think one of the things that you've mentioned in the past is it helps us to not take things so personally, right? Because things happen in our life and we assume it's about us. So how does this help with that? Because that's something that I think is eminently human. How do we get better at not taking it personally?
Hmm. That is a course all on its own. But briefly, if you think about it, how much we think people think about us is about this much.
Mhm.
How much other people actually think about us is actually this much.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, we're very egocentric. We think everybody's thinking about us all the time.
Yes.
No, everybody's thinking about themselves all the time.
Yeah.
and what's in their best
Yeah.
interest. Um, Children, uh, parents, we do it.
Hmm.
Everybody does it. Animals do it. Everybody does it. So it's not about you.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's the shortcut kind of condensed summary version.
Exactly. Well, and I know I have people in my life that have this issue of um, they have relationships in their head, not with the actual person. They make assumptions about you said this and that meant that, and then they respond to that assumption versus just checking with the person of you said this, did you mean this? Or did you mean, what did you mean? And so one of the things that I would heartily recommend to people is have the relationship with the person, not with yourself in your head, because it's really, really hard for us to know what's going on up there in that head and for you to guess what's real about the like have the relationship with the person is what I'm saying. Because I it's so frustrating when people assume um, based on what they think that would mean for them, right? So, and that I know that's one of the things that for me is quite triggering in relationships when people don't actually they assume they know what I need or what I mean or what I want versus just checking, just check.
I have that. Yeah. I absolutely have that. Like, for example, like my mom, I love her dearly, but she's like, she jumps in to do things. She thinks she knows what people want. And
Yeah,
she does this thing. And she's like, I'm gonna help with this, and I'm gonna help with this, and I'm gonna help with this. And she's like, look at all this stuff I've done. And it's like, we didn't ask you to. We don't need this done.
yeah,
She's like, but I did it. And you're not saying thank you. And you're taking me for granted. And I have to do it. It's like, no, you don't have to do it. So nobody in that situation is happy.
exactly. And it's something that can be resolved if people just communicate and check with each other rather than doing the thing and getting all triggered. So great approach and great advice. So how do people find out more about you or connect with you? And you've got a gift that you want to give people. So tell us about that and how to
I
find
do have a gift to give people. I'm found at liveyourbestlife.coach.
it. Hmm.
And that is the website for, for getting de-triggered, untriggered, being, taming, putting down your holsters. I mean, sorry, holstering your triggers. There we go. Yes. And if they want to get more information on other things, I do have a few check boxes on that main website, which says if you want relationship coaching, if you want divorce coaching, if you want parent-child relationships, those newsletters are also available through that website, and then they'll go to different websites as well. For me personally.
Okay. So from triggered to holstered in under 2 minutes, you go to liveyourbestlife.coach/PPP 2024. PPP 2024. And you'll get that information. And of course, at that website at liveyourbestlife.coach, you can find out more about Ilona and her services and the kinds of work that she does, which is actually super important work for everyone. It doesn't matter where you're at. It happens at work, it happens at the home, it happens as a parent, it happens if you're in a, working in a charity. It helps us be better humans overall. So thank you so much for being here today, Ilona. And I really appreciate your passion for supporting people in getting out of being in reaction and getting into being who they want to be, including their juicy self, and creating that juicy intimacy. So that's great. Tell us, what's one last thing you'd like to leave everyone with?
So you and I got to segue into relationships and listening. So I think a key thing to building intimacy and to building all that juiciness is active listening. And women do it a little better than men, but women do also tend to assume. So having that active listening of, hey, partner, come sit with me and let's have this discussion. Like, let's just talk about our days. And what I need from you is just to listen and not give me feedback. And so, and then when you're listening, the partner says, oh, so what I'm hearing is
Mhm.
blah, 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 not trying to fix anything, not trying to anything. And then the same thing with when we do it, we're like, oh, but I think I want to help with this, or, oh, maybe I'll take on that kind of thing. No, just be like, hey, this is what I heard you say. And
Yep.
then is there any other way I can support you? So active listening builds that intimacy. And after that, notice how you're going to be feeling with your partner after you do that. Just
Mm.
sit down for a few minutes, share a little tidbit, and just notice how you're feeling before and how you're feeling after. You'll be feeling a little more juicy, I can guarantee it.
All right. Love it. Thank you so much for being here, Ilona. Appreciate you and all the work you do. And ladies and or gentlemen, if there's gentlemen listening, by all means, reach out to Ilona and find out more about what she has to offer. And go grab that great resource for you about how to get untriggered really quickly in under 2 minutes. And if you are looking for support, there are so many different people. One of the things that I would highly recommend is figure out what it is you think is the biggest gap that you need support with. And what might that gap filling look like? In other words, if you need support with your relationship, then you might want someone who can help you get back your mojo. If you want help with your business, you might need help with strategy versus tactics. So figure out what it is you want, then go look for that support and really check in with you so that you can see whether or not this is the right person for you. This is the right time. I wrote a complimentary ebook on how to choose the right business coach for you. It's a bunch of questions that you can ask and criteria you can use. You could also use it for personal coaching, but it's really geared towards business. So I'll put the link for that in the chat so that you can have some support with picking the right resource. But one of the first steps, figure out what you want and need, then go and talk to different people. So take Ilona up on her offer to read her information, to connect with her, to reach out, to see whether or not that's the person for you. Because not all of us are the right person for everyone, but all of us are the right person for someone. So reach out to Ilona, especially if you want to get your juicy back. All right. Thanks for being here, my friend. I appreciate you. And thanks for listening, everybody. Have a juicy week. Bye for now.